Welcome back to another episode of the Ark Switch Survival Guide. Today we are going to teach you all about how to get honey on Ark, starting with how to get a beehive on Ark, how to tame giant bees and get that beehive, and then how to actually keep the bees and get honey out of your beehive after you've tamed them. And even after you've tamed a bee on Ark, the beehive will still try to kill you all the time if you don't use a couple of cool little tricks that we can do to safely get honey on Ark. We're also going to show you how to protect your beehive and how to build it into your base so that your beehive is actually part of your base. We're also going to show you a really cool trick that we can do to actually place a beehive on a raft on Ark and how to build that into our raft fortress. And we're going to show you how to get honey from your beehive, how to store the honey to keep it from spoiling, and most importantly, why you actually want to get honey on Ark and why having a beehive on Ark is so helpful. We're also going to show you a cool little thing at the end where you can actually make a window onto your beehive in your base and be able to instantly spot when the honey is ready to harvest. So be sure to watch this video till the end. This episode is full of great tips on how to get honey on Ark. Now this episode will focus on how to use a beehive that you already have, but the episode before this, which I will put a link in the description for, teaches you how to tame a giant queen bee on Ark and how to get that beehive we're going to use in this episode. So be sure to watch that if you've not seen this one. And we're going to basically show you how to destroy the beehive itself using a pteranodon or another flyer. And we also showed you how to tame the queen bee, which is an extremely dangerous process. But we showed you some good tips on how to make it a lot safer during the process, which is a very relative thing because we still almost died multiple times while we were taming these two beehives that we got. But now that we have the bees tamed, you can just hit the X button to pick up the bee, and it turns into an item, which is actually a structure called a beehive structure. And once you've got that, you can place it in your hotbar just like any other structure. Now, one unique thing about the beehive structure is it has to be placed on the ground itself. It cannot be placed on a foundation, but you can also place it on platforms like a raft if it's directly on the deck of the raft, or a treehouse platform also works. But we're just going to place this just off of our base next to this foundation because I'm actually going to show you how to incorporate this beehive as part of your base. And I'm also going to rotate it so that the honeycomb is actually facing the side of my base, and I'll show you why in a little bit. So there we go. We've got our beehive placed, and that is safely on the ground, and it's right next to the foundation that I want that thing to be attached to. Now, it's really important when you are using your own beehive that you actually have a ghillie suit, and every piece of that ghillie suit has to be equipped to use it as a beekeeping suit. And as long as you've got that, you can successfully open up the beehive without getting stung. Now, if I'm missing even one piece of this ghillie armor, when I open up the inventory of that beehive, I start getting attacked by all the bees. Bees are dangerous as anything in the wild, but they're still really dangerous even when they're tamed. Now you can see I just took most of my damage, most of my health, and I almost died just from opening up that beehive. So I highly recommend keeping a ghillie suit at hand in a storage box next to your beehive because that's going to be really helpful to keep you from dying when you open your own beehive. Another very important thing to remember is beehives actually eat just like other dinosaurs, but they eat rare flowers. So you need to keep a stack of rare flowers in your beehive to keep it healthy and producing honey. And it's going to go through about one rare flower every 4 hours. And we'll put a link in the description for how to get those rare flowers too. Now, before we actually build a base around this beehive, there is a setting that I need to enable to allow structures to clip into terrain and other structures. So the disable structure placement collision, I usually keep that checked on my settings. And that will actually allow us to build around this beehive and completely surround it with a foundation, which will protect it really well. Now you can technically just place a beehive outside and it will stay alive. They've got a lot of health, but it can be damaged by stuff, and it's so hard to tame them that I like to build a building around it, and it's much better that way. Now if you do not have the ability to change that setting on your server, you can build foundations all the way around that beehive and then put a structure around that. So you can still make this, but it's a lot easier if you can just place a structure right through that. So that's why I've disabled that object collision that would have stopped me from placing this foundation right there. But you can put the foundation right around the beehive and we can still access it from the top. So I'm going to put walls all the way around the outside of this beehive, and it's just going to be a little side building on my base. And I'll put a ceiling on top too, which will probably touch the top just a little bit, but it'll still let us do that. And once again, if you are on a server where you cannot do that disable object collision setting, you may not be able to build it exactly like this, but if you build foundations all the way around it and make it taller, you can still place it inside a building. So here we go. We've got this little beehive that we can access just fine now, and it's actually sticking out of our base. So when we're inside the base, we can just check out that beehive and loot it anytime it's done making honey. Now a beehive will make honey about once every 45 minutes, and so we're just going to keep checking that every now and then and see if it's done making that honey. Now I like to build a door, of course, so we can actually access that beehive inside our base. So I'll go ahead and place that. Now you don't technically have to have this covered by a door. You can just have the open beehive, and they don't sting you unless you actually open that beehive. And it's when you open it they start attacking you. But I'm not exactly sure what that will do to your dinosaurs or if they'll freak out. So I just like to have that nice and closed off. It just looks way better that way, and it's a lot safer just in case something were to get into your base. It won't be able to destroy that beehive that you worked so hard for. I also just noticed this little seagull here, so I'm just going to go ahead and kill that thing off. These things are so annoying, but we can really outmaneuver it using our Tapehara here, and let's see if I can catch this in midair. Oh yeah. Well, he ate some of my meat, but then I ate him, so we're just about even. You'll also notice I have a family of Tapeharas going, so we'll show you how that happened in the next episode or two. We're going to tame some more Tapeharas and start breeding them. So now I'm going to show you a cool trick for how to actually place a beehive on a raft fortress. Now you can see it shows up green right here, and not here. It's actually red. And the reason is you cannot place a beehive on a foundation, but you can place it on the raft platform. But if we were to try to place that, it won't allow it because there's too much stuff in the way. I'm going to go ahead and demolish this fire pit, and I'm actually going to demolish the foundation itself right here. And when we do that, we actually expose part of the raft. And you can see there's just the corner of the raft sticking out. Now, I have this space now that I can actually have it open, and I would be able to place that, but you can see it won't allow it. It gives me this error message. And it took a while to figure it out, but if I demolish the ceiling above it, which was also obstructing the beehive itself, now I should actually be able to place that, because it is about 2 stories tall. And now it's going to actually let me place the beehive sticking off of the raft, and it's directly on the raft platform. Now I didn't want to build it on the other platform because it would block the rudder and make it impossible to steer this base, but being just to the left of the rudder makes it so it's got enough space to build this. And now I am just going to place this foundation back on top. Now I could technically place it even if I did not have that setting enabled to allow clipping. I could probably place this in line with the foundation of the rudder, but I want to snap it just a little bit higher so it's partially sticking through the beehive and covering the bottom a little bit, just because that's my preference, to keep all the floors even except that rudder. So I'm just going to scroll through, and there we go. Now it's on the same level as the rest the foundations, and we now have a beehive successfully placed on our raft fortress. And we can go anywhere we want with this beehive, and everywhere we go with the raft fortress, it will continue producing honey every 45 minutes, even if we're on the other side of the map. So I really like having one beehive in the raft fortress, and the other one is in our main plateau base. So pretty much anytime we are anywhere on the map, we're going to have this with us, and it'll keep producing honey. So I'm going to go ahead and close in the rest of this box, which once again is not entirely necessary, but I think it looks a lot better, and I just like having these beehives closed off. So while I'm doing this, let me tell you a little bit about why honey is so helpful in Ark. So first of all, if you just eat honey, it'll give you a whole bunch of health. It's really good food. It gives you a whole bunch of food when you eat it, and it's great for that alone. But, don't like that wall too much. I'm going to replace that. I'm such a perfectionist, but I love this Structures Plus thing they've added to the PC version, which allows me to pick stuff back up without having to demolish it. So another great thing about honey is it's used in tons of recipes, and the main reason that I want to get it at this point in the game is it's necessary to cook sweet vegetable cakes. And sweet vegetable cakes allow you to tame ovis or sheep, which are used for mutton, which is basically kibble for any carnivore that you want to tame. It's way more effective than even prime meat, and it lets you tame super high-level dinosaurs if you can get a flock of sheep and just keep breeding those for mutton. Now, another great thing about sweet vegetable cakes is they are the only way to tame and keep alive snails. And as weird as it sounds, having a snail is incredibly helpful. Every minute, a snail will create one cementing paste, and that is going to be incredibly helpful throughout the whole game. So if we have a snail constantly producing cementing paste, it'll make our whole game so much easier. So I definitely want to get a snail as quickly as possible, and to do that, we have to have honey constantly being produced. So that's a big reason that I went ahead and tamed these bees. That, and it's just hard to find bees in a good, safe place to tame like we did here. So that's going to make our whole rest of our game so much easier. If you like fishing on Ark, it's also great bait. You can stick some honey on a fishing line, and it's really good for catching fish. Now, apparently, I've never tried this myself, but you can also use honey to calm down a whale that is attacking your raft. So that's a nice thing to think about. You can actually chuck out some honey, and it'll distract the whale long enough you can get away, which is pretty cool. Now, another nice thing that you can do with honey is you can actually use it to tame things like bears, but you can also use it in custom recipes, and when you add honey to a custom recipe, it's going to give you a ton of extra health when you eat that item. So it becomes kind of like a health tonic, but it makes it much better for healing yourself in the field. So I'm also demolishing that door frame and putting a new one over here, because I do really like having two doors on my base, and it's especially helpful if I've got like a T-Rex or something that I get to chase into my taming courtyard. I can escape from both sides and get in here. So I definitely want to go ahead and replace that door frame that I demolished and go ahead and fill out the rest of this wall. Now, realistically, I technically did not have to build that whole enclosure around that beehive. It would be just fine to have it just sitting out there in the middle of my base, but I think it just looks a lot better and feels better having, that nicely enclosed in there. So there we go. We've got our raft fortress remodeled to now be able to hold a beehive, and that's going to give us a constant supply of honey throughout the rest of the game. And another thing to note about honey is it spoils really quickly. So once you've got it, you got to put it in a refrigerator in order to keep it from spoiling. So I'm also going to replace the campfire that I demolished just to make sure I don't forget about that. So I'll put that right back here. And now we kind of have a kitchen bed area back here behind the refrigerator. And that'll actually work out really well. So we're going to skip ahead about 45 minutes into the future. Oh yeah, time traveling. And that gives us enough time time for this honey to actually be produced. And once again, we're making sure we are decked out in the full ghillie suit, which we keep right next to the beehive. And check it out. You can see this beehive is just dripping with honey. And that's how we know there's actually honey in its inventory. Now, if you look at the top of these honeycombs kind of in the middle, you can see that there's actually streams of honey coming out over the yellow honeycombs. And that's how you know it's actually got honey in there. So as you can see here, the spoil time is like 13 days, like 2 weeks it'll be good in the actual beehive. But if we pull it out, it's only got about 20 minutes before it spoils. So we've got to get this back to our refrigerator as quickly as possible after we've pulled the honey out. And I'm going to go ahead and fly this back down to the raft, and we'll put that honey right into the refrigerator. And once we do that, it will last for days, which is really good because it's going to take us a little while before we get the rest of the ingredients that we're going to use it for. And hey, free meat. That's what I love about this raft fortress. Anywhere I go, it just shoots down any enemies, and I just get free meat everywhere. It's as if I've killed stuff, but didn't actually have to destroy any dinos. So, you might notice some other tapeharas in here. We'll show you what that's about later on. But check this out. This is our second beehive, and it just now hit where it was producing some more honey. And you can see it a lot better down here on the raft, but it's just got these streams of honey dripping over that honeycomb, and after I pull the honey out, the dripping honey disappears, and that's what it looks like when it does not have honey in it. So we'll close that up, and we'll drop our 2 sets of honey into the refrigerator, and that's going to be really helpful for the rest of our game. Now, the next thing I need to do to make those sweet vegetable cakes is actually get some sap. And I'll show you how to make sap taps and create a sap tap fortress in the redwood forest in order to completely get all of the stuff we need for that. But that'll be in a later episode, and we'll get to that eventually. So the next thing I want to do is just show you a cool little trick that I like to do, and that's actually making a window into our beehive. Now, at about 43, we can actually learn the engrams for making a greenhouse door. And I'm going to go ahead and craft the door frame and the door. It used to be that you could snap a greenhouse door onto a wooden or stone door frame, but you can no longer do that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those 2 things, and we'll just put those in my inventory. And we're going to create a greenhouse wall with an opening door instead of this stone wall, and that way every time I glance at my beehive when I'm in my raft, I can see really quickly if it's got honey in there. I don't normally run around in a full ghillie suit. I'll be storing this near the beehive in my base, so when I've got this window here, I'll just be able to see when it's got the honey ready, and then I'll be able to open it up and put the ghillie suit on and grab honey from this beehive. So that's going to be really helpful, and I just love the aesthetics of that. It's just really nice to have that inside the base in that cool little window. So I'm also going to run up to my plateau base and do the same thing just because it's a cool aesthetic thing. Now, it uses a lot of crystal to make this, so I don't really recommend you do this on your game until you get access to a lot more crystal. But, you know, it's a pretty quick trip to the top of Metal Mountain, and we can just grab a quick little bit of crystal when we need it. So there we go. We've got a really nice looking beehive set up, and it just looks really cool inside that little greenhouse. So that's pretty much all you need to know about keeping bees on Ark and how to get honey on Ark. And I really hope this episode was helpful. If it was, please drop a like on this video. Drop a comment if you have any questions. We love your feedback, and we love answering questions that you have and helping you enjoy your own Ark adventures. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that little bell icon to enable notifications, and it will tell you when the next great Ark Switch guide video comes out, which will teach you more fun and helpful things to enjoy your journey on Ark. And we are still working on our video to celebrate the 1,100 subscriber challenge, and we'll get that to you as soon as we can, but we're also working on getting 1,200 subscribers for another special video too. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much for watching this video from the Ark Survival Guide. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you more great guides like this one. Ark is an amazing game, but there is so much to learn before you can really enjoy it. We are dedicated to bringing you high-quality guides, tutorials, and Let's Play videos that are fun, helpful, clean, and suitable for the entire family. There's a tutorial in this series for everything we have done so far in this video. Check out these playlists for more episodes from this series and other guides to help you enjoy your journey on Ark.